Dhruva Maharaj, the child Dhruva, was deeply hurt by the harsh words spoken by his stepmother Suruchi, and Dhruva Maharaj has come to his mother Sunithi. And Sunithi told Dhruva that I am not the favorite wife of your father, so I cannot do much. And do not become angry with the instrument of your karma. Whatever has been spoken by Suruchi is so because your father does not consider me as his wife or even his maid servant. He feels ashamed to accept me. Therefore, you have taken birth from the womb of an unfortunate woman. So, therefore, this is your condition. And Sunithi also told that do not wish for anything inauspicious for others. If you try to inflict pain upon others, then you will also get that same pain in return. And whatever you have obtained in our life, it is because of our karma. In that way, Sunithi gave advice to Dhruva. And now from the 19th shloka, so these 5 shlokas are very important shlokas. In these 5 shlokas, Sunithi is inspiring Dhruva Maharaj to worship the Lord. So somebody can repeat after me, 19th shloka. Atishtatat vimatsarastvam.
Atishtatat vimatsarastvam.
Uktam samatrapi yadavyalekam.
Uktam samatrapi yad avyalikam.
Aradhayodoksha japada padmam.
Aradhayodoksha pada padmam.
Yadichase dhyasanamutamo yata.
Ichase dhyasanam uttamo yatha. My dear boy, whatever has been spoken by Suruchi, your stepmother, although very harsh to hear, is factual. Therefore, if you desire at all to sit on the same throne as your stepbrother Uttama, then give up your envious attitude and immediately try to execute the instructions of your stepmother. Without further delay, you must engage yourself in worshipping the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
So here Sunithi is telling that Atishta means execute. So she is addressing Dhruva with affectionate tone. Tata is a affectionate way of addressing a person, a child, like that. Pitru bharyatvena matra samana mama sapatni. So Suruchi, being the wife of your father, he is equal to you. He is equal to me. He is equal to your mother. Because she is the wife of your father, Pitru Bharyatvena Matra Sama, Mama Sapatni, she is my she is my co-wife, Sapatni, and she is like your mother, Matra Sama, and Taya Mama Tavacha Shatrubhutaya Api. Although it may appear that she is behaving like your enemy, Shatrubhutaya Api, although she spoke harsh words, she behaved like your enemy, but still tapasa aradhya purusham ityadi yat avyalikam satyam vachaha uktam. Although it may appear that she is behaving like your enemy, she is actually equivalent to your mother, but although she is behaving like an enemy, but whatever words she spoke, what is the words that she spoke? Tapasa aradhya purusham. Perform tapasya and worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead. These words that she spoke, whatever words that she spoke, that is avyalikam satyam vachaha. These words spoken by her is actually correct words. They are true. They are true. Therefore, vimatsaraha suruchyam. Therefore, give up your envy towards Suruchi. Matsya rahitaha san tvam atishta. Therefore, giving up your envy towards Suruchi, execute the instructions of Suruchi. Actually, Suruchi told, what did Suruchi said that if at all you desire to sit on the lap of your father, then you must worship the Supreme Lord and then give up this body, and then in the next life, when you take birth from my womb, then you will be qualified to sit on the lap of your father. Suruchi did not have the intention. It's not that she had the intention. She wanted to encourage Dhruva to worship the Supreme Lord. Suruchi's intention was that basically she is indirectly saying that you should die. You should die. You are not qualified to sit on the lap of your father. If you desire to sit, then better you die. So it's not that she really intended to give instructions on the worship of the Supreme Lord. But see Sunithi. Sunithi is taking the essence even in that instruction. Although Suruchi, your stepmother, is behaving like your enemy, but the words she spoke is avyalikam. The words she spoke is actually true. What are the words? The worship of the Supreme Personality of God. Therefore, give up your envy towards Suruchi. So Sunithi is giving a very wonderful instruction. She is telling that don't have the feelings of revenge towards Suruchi. Give up the feelings of revenge and execute her instructions. That is, worship the Supreme Personality of God. Yadi uttamo yata tata adhyasanam rajyam ichase. If you desire kingdom like Uttama, if you desire the same position like your brother Uttama, then you worship the Supreme Personality of God. Tada adokshajasya harehe padapadmam aradaya. The Lord Hari, who is adokshaja, who is beyond the range of our senses, worship the lotus feet of that Lord Hari. So Vishwanath Chakravarti writes in his commentary, Vishwanath Chakravarti says that Suruchi is equivalent to your mother, although she wants to harm you. So do whatever she has said. What she told is not comfortable to hear. That what she told, that you are not qualified to sit on the lap of your father because you are not taken birth from my womb. These words are not comfortable to hear. But worshipping the Supreme Lord is not uncomfortable for anyone. She also told that you worship the Supreme Lord And the next life, if you take birth from my womb, then you can get the kingdom of your father. So that point which he told, worshipping the Supreme Lord, that point is worshipping the Supreme Lord is not uncomfortable for anyone. So we see that how the Sunithi is focused on the essence. Despite the harsh words spoken by Suruchi, Sunithi is focused on the essence. She is trying to see the silver lining in the midst of the darkness, or in the midst of the harsh words spoken by Suruchi. That the instruction she told about worshipping the Supreme Lord, that is definitely not uncomfortable for anyone. Therefore, Vimatsarastvam, give up your envy towards Suruchi. And then Sunithi says that, see, my life, my weeping, my misery in my life, I have been neglected by your father. My weeping has been written on my forehead by the Creator since the time of my birth. It is my karma. But you should be happy. And if you want to be happy, if you want to get the kingdom, yadi adhyasanam uttamo yata ichyase. If you desire the kingdom like your brother Uttama, then you must worship the Supreme Lord. It is my karma that I have to go through the suffering right from the birth, but you should be happy. So worship the Supreme Lord. Like that she says. Then further,
So,
next
Prabhuji, sorry
uh,
to interrupt. So, it seemed that as if Suruchi was actually Pat Pradaksha Guru, but it now it's the mother who's the real mother who's actually the Pat Pradaksha Guru. Because if she wouldn't have said the latter half, then she would have got the credit of becoming Pat Pradaksha.
No, Sunithi is the Padapradarshak Guru.
Yes, but if Sunithi would have not said the latter half, like she would have just stopped the conversation till you worship the Supreme Lord. Maybe she would have got the title of Pat Pradaksha Guru, like, because she gave an instruction to worship. Her intention was wrong, but
no, Sunithi is only mentioned as the Padapradarshak Guru.
Okay.
Suruchi, because she did not intend, it's not that she was really intending that Dhruva should worship the Supreme Lord. It was just her real intention was that you better die, actually. You cannot sit on the lap of your father. So, so Guru, she did not intend, she did not give that instruction with the intention that Dhruva should worship the Supreme Lord. But Sunithi is actually highlighting that, and she is really intending Dhruva that he must worship the Supreme Lord. So Sunithi is mentioned as the Padapradarshak Guru. So the harsh words used by Suruchi to her stepson were true because unless one is favored by the Supreme Lord, one cannot achieve any success in life. Man proposes, God disposes. Sunithi, the mother of Dhruva, agreed with her co-wife's advice that Dhruva engage himself in the worship of the Supreme Personality of God. Indirectly, the words of Suruchi were a benediction for Dhruva Maharaj, for because of the influence of his stepmother's words, he became a great devotee. So one can say Suruchi also as a Padapradarshak Guru, although she did not intend. Padapradarshak Guru, Padapradarshak Guru, if we say somebody may instruct a person to worship the Supreme Lord, although the person who is instructing, he or she may himself not be practicing the path of bhakti. That person himself may not be worshipping the Supreme Lord, but then that person may give instruction to others. You can worship the Supreme Lord if you want to achieve this. That is like a Pada Pradashak Guru. Pada Pradashak Guru shows the way, but although he himself may not be situated on that particular path. For example, there was a person, there was a devotee who took to path of bhakti, but then later, because of the influence of previous bad habits, because of wrong association, he again went back to his past habits. And he was drunk. But previously, because he had associated with the devotees, he was knowing the philosophy. He had read Bhagavad Gita. But then because of the past habits, he again went back to he became intoxicated. But in the intoxicated state, he was preaching about Bhagavad Gita, chanting the holy names of the Lord to some other person. He was in the intoxicated state, but whatever he had previously read or heard, that was there in the subconscious mind. In the intoxicated state, although he is not practicing, but he preached to some other person in that intoxicated state. And that person, hearing the words of this intoxicated man, he became interested, and then he purchased a Bhagavad Gita, and then he took interest in the path of bhakti, and then he became a devotee. So in one sense, this drunken man acted like a Padaparadashak Guru, although he himself was not practicing. So we can say Suruchi also has a Padaparadashak Guru, although she did not intend. But and also we can say Sunithi also has a Padaparadashak Guru. Sunithi is telling Dhruva that you must worship the Supreme Lord. Take those words of Suruchi seriously, although she may have behaved like an enemy. Next shloka. Yasyangri padmam paricharya vishva.
Yashyangri padmam paricharya vishwa
Vibhavanayatta gunabhipattehe.
vibhavanayata gunabhipatte
Ajodhyatishtat khalu parameshtyam.
ajodhyastistat kalu paramestyam
Padam jitatmashvasanabhivandyam.
padam jitatma swasanabhivandyam. Purport. Translation. Sunithi continued, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is so great that simply by worshipping his lotus feet, your great-grandfather, Lord Brahma, acquired the necessary qualifications to create this universe. Although he is unborn and is the chief of all living creatures, he is situated in that exalted post because of the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, whom even great yogis worship by controlling the mind and regulating the life, air, prana.
So in 4 shlokas, Sunithi is inspiring Dhruva why he must worship the Supreme Lord. She gives many examples. She gives examples of Brahma and Swayambhuva Manu, who worshipped the Supreme Lord and achieved great position in their life. So, Yasyangri Padmam Paricharya Vishwa. Vibhavanayata Gunabhipattehe. Vibhavanaya Yasyangri Padmam Paricharya Vishwa. Vishwa Vibhavanaya. That means Vishwasya Vibhavanaya. Vibhavanaya means Palanaya. Vishwasya Palanaya. That means for the purpose of maintaining the universe. Yasyangri padmam paricharya vishwa vibhavanayatta gunabhipattehe. Atta means svikrita, accepting. Gunabhipattihi. What did he accept? Guna abhipattihi. Guna abhipattihi refers to sattva guna. Sattva guna adhishtatritvam. Guna abhipattihi. For the purpose of maintenance, maintenance is always done in sattva guna. Creation is done in rajoguna, destruction is done in tamoguna. So for the purpose of maintaining the universe, the Supreme Lord accepted the position of Adhishtatra Devata of Sattvaguna. He accepted the position of the Devata in charge of Sattvaguna. Gunabhipattihi means Sattvaguna Adhishtatritvam. The position of supervising Sattvaguna, position of controlling Sattvaguna. He accepted that position. That Supreme Lord, Yena Tasya Yasya Adokshajasya Jitaha. Last line, you can see the last line. Yasyangri Padmam Paricharya Vishwa Vibhavanayatta Gunabhipattehe Ajodhyatishtat Kaluparameshtyam Padam Jitatma Shvasanabhivandyam. Jita Atma Shvasanabhi. Jita Atma Shvasana. Jita means conquering. Padam Jitat Atma Shvasana. Atma here refers to mind. Shvasana refers to Pranavayu. So by conquering the mind and the by controlling the breathing life here, that means by performing the different Ashtanga Yoga, by conquering the mind and by controlling the breathing. Abhivandyam. So many yogis worship the Supreme Lord. Padam Jitatma Shvasanabhivandyam. Many yogis worship that Supreme Lord by controlling the mind and by conquering the breathing. Or by controlling the breathing, conquering the mind and the controlling the breathing. Yaistair Abhivandyam, that Supreme Lord, Yasya Angri Padmam. Angri Padmam, his lotus feet. Charana Kamalam, Yasyangri Padmam, Paricharya Vishwa. Paricharya, that means by serving the lotus feet of that Supreme Lord. Paricharya Vishwa. So we see by serving the lotus feet of that Supreme Lord, who accepted the position of controlling Sattvaguna for protecting the universe, who is worshipped by the great yogis by conquering the mind and by controlling the life here. Worship that Supreme Lord. By worshipping that Supreme Lord, Paricharya means by worshipping that Supreme Lord, Ajaha. Now you come to the third line. Ajodhya Tishtad Kalu Parameshtyam. Aja refers to Brahma. Brahma Parameshtyam. Parameshtyam means Sarvodkrishtam Padam. Exalted position. Brahma, by worshipping that Supreme Lord, Ajodhya Tishtat Kalu Parameshtyam. He attained the position of being the creator of the universe. He attained the topmost position in the universe by worshipping that Supreme Lord. Sarvodkrishtam Padam Adyatishtat Praptavan. Adyatishtat means Praptavan. So Sunithi is giving the example of Brahma. So you see that Brahma also worshipped that Supreme Lord and attained the exalted position in the universe. Ajodhyatishtat Kaluparameshtyam. And by that, Sunithi is telling to Dhruva that so Dhruva Maharaj is having a doubt you are telling me to worship the Supreme Lord. But will I enter the womb of that sinful woman Suruchi by worshipping the Lord? Because Suruchi had told that you worship the Supreme Lord, give up your body, and the next life you take birth from my womb. Then you can get the kingdom of your father. So child Dhruva is having a doubt. So by worshipping the Supreme Lord, will I enter the womb of that sinful woman Suruchi? She is such a vile creature. Like that Dhruva is thinking. So the Sunithi is telling that your father, uh, Suruchi is definitely a wild creature, but then by worshipping the Supreme Lord, you can attain a position greater than that of Brahma. Brahma attained the position by worshipping the Supreme Lord, but you can attain a position greater than that of Brahma. Therefore, quickly go from here and worship that Lord. Do not lament. Do not lament. And Brahma worshipped the feet of the Lord, who has accepted the position of controller of Sattva-guna for maintaining the universe. And the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord is adored by the yogis who have controlled their minds and the pranas. Jitatma Shvasanabi Vandi. So Prabhupada's purport. Sunithi is citing the example of Brahma. Although Brahma is also a living being, by his penance and austerity, he acquired the exalted position of creator of this universe. To become successful in any attempt, one not only has to undergo severe penances and austerities, but must be dependent on the mercy of the Supreme Lord. This indication had been given to Dhruva by his stepmother, but now it is confirmed by Sunithi. Now it is confirmed by his own mother Sunithi. Next shloka. Tata manurvo Bhagavan pitamaho
तथा मनोर्वो भगवान पितामहो
Yamekamatya puru dakshinairmakaihi
यमेकमत्या पुरुदक्षिणैर्मखै
Ishtva duravapamanyato
इष्ट्वा विपेदे दुरवापमन्यतो
Baumam sukam divyamatapavargyam.
भौमं सुखं दिव्यमया पवर्ग्यम. Translation. Sunithi informed her son, your grandfather Swayambhuva Manu executed great sacrifices with distribution of charity, and thereby with unflinching faith and devotion he worshipped and satisfied the Supreme Personality of Godhead. By acting in that way, he achieved the greatest success in material happiness and afterwards achieved liberation, which is impossible to obtain by worshipping the demigods.
So here, Sunithi is giving the second example. So Tata Brahmana, just like Brahma worshipped the Supreme Lord, Yata Bhagavantam Aradhya Utkrishtam Padam Praptam Tata Vo Yushmakam Pitamaho Bhagavan Manur Yam. Just like Brahma worshipped the Supreme Lord and obtained a very great position. Similarly, Yushmakam Pitamaho. Similarly, your grandfather, that is Swayambhuva Manu. Swayambhuva Manu, Harim Yek Aikamatya. With Harim, with one pointed attention. Aikamatya means ekagra buddhya, with a one-pointed intelligence. Sarva antaryami drishtya. Sarva antaryami drishtya puru dakshinair makair ishtva sampujya. By performing with one-pointed attention, he worshipped the Supreme Lord by performing elaborate sacrifices. Puru dakshinai. Dakshinai means here maka. Maka means sacrifice. Puru dakshinair makair ishtva. Ishtva means sampujya. He worshipped the Supreme Lord by performing elaborate sacrifices. By that, anyato devantarat bhagavat aradhana vyatirikta sadhanato va duravapam. By performing anya devantarat, by worshipping other devatas, worship of the Supreme Lord other than this, by worshipping other devatas, one cannot attain such an exalted position. Devantarat bhagavat aradhana vyatirikta sadhanato va duravapam praptum. To obtain such a great position like Brahma, or what was achieved by Swayambhu Manu, is very difficult to attain. Duravapam, by means other than worshipping the Supreme Lord. Duravapam means praptum ashakyam. So what did, Brahma attained the position of a creator. What did Swayambhu Manu attain by worshipping the Supreme Lord? So three things are mentioned. Tata manurvo bhagavan pitamaho yamekamatya puru dakshinairmakai ishtva bipede duravapamanyato baumam sukham divyamatapavargyam. So three things are mentioned. Baumam, divyam sukham, and apavargyam. Baumam means the Swayambhu Manu attained dominion over the earth for one Manvantara. Manvantara Adipatyam. He attained dominion over the earth for one Manvantara. He ruled the planet for one Manvantara. Manvantaradipatyam. And then Divyam Sukham. Divyam Sukham means Swarga Sambandhicha Sukham. While ruling as a Manu, he enjoyed heavenly pleasure. Divyam Sukham. And then Apavargyam. Deha Tyagan Anantaram Apavargyam. Moksha Sukham cha Abhipede Praptavan. After giving up this body, he also attained moksha. He attained liberation. So he attained liberation. So we see this is such a profound verse. I'll first go through Vishwanath Chakravarti's purport. So Vishwanath Chakravarti says that, Ekamatya means with a concentrated intelligence. That means Swayambhu Manu, it's not that he worshipped the Supreme Lord without focus. With a focused mind, he worshipped the Supreme Lord. So Prabhupada says in the purport that the success of one's life is measured by one's material happiness in this life and liberation in the next life. The definition of success is given here. Definition of success is that while living in this world, live with prosperity, and then after leaving this world, attain liberation in the next life. So that the definition of success itself is a wholesome definition. So in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that Sahayagya praja srishtva puro vacha prajapatihi anena prasavishyadvam yeshavostvishta kamaduk. Perform these sacrifices. By performing sacrifices, you will get prosperity in this life and liberation in the next life. Prabhupada says in one purport, by practicing Varnashram Dharma is the art of living in this world. Bhagavata Dharma is the art of loving the Supreme Personality of God. By practicing Varnashram Dharma and Bhagavata Dharma, even while living in this world itself will get turned into Vaikuntha. One can live with prosperity at the same time with a spiritual consciousness by worshipping the Supreme Lord. So such success, that means prosperity in this world and also liberation in the next world, can be achieved only by the grace of the Supreme Personality of God. We had earlier discussed in the third canto, I think chapter, if you read it, chapter 23, if I remember properly. No, not chapter 23 or 22, somewhere. At the end of the chapter, it is described that how Swayambhu Manu, while living in this world, he lived with great prosperity, but at the same time with the Krishna consciousness, while remembering the Supreme Lord. So, Eka Matya means one concentrating one's mind on the Lord without deviation. So, the process of worshipping the Lord is also mentioned as Ananya Bhak in the Bhagavad Gita. So, Ishtvabi Pede Duravapa Manyato. Duravapa means what was achieved by Swayambhu Manu was not achieved by cannot be achieved by any other process. That means by worship of the Devatas, one cannot achieve what Swayambhu Manu achieved. By worshipping the Devatas, one can get some prosperity while living in this world, but one cannot attain liberation. So the Swayambhu Manu's, whatever he achieved, it is because of his undeviated faithfulness in the transcendental service of the Lord. So one who diverts his mind to worshipping many demigods to obtain material happiness is considered bereft of intelligence. Bhogaishwarya prasaktanam taya apakrita chetasam vyavasayatmika buddhi samadauna vidiyate. The person who worships many devatas, such a person is considered to be bereft of intelligence. Taya apakrita chetasam. So yam eka matya, you can relate with the Bhagavad Gita shloka, vyavasayatmika buddhi ekeha kurunandana bahushaka hyanantascha buddhayo avyavasayinam. Krishna says that with a one-pointed focus, vyavasayatmika buddhi ekeha kurunandana, you worship me, perform this bhakti yoga. So Swayambhu Manu had that one-pointed intelligence. And if anyone wants even material happiness, he can worship the Supreme Lord without deviation. And persons who are desirous of liberation can also worship the Supreme Lord and achieve their goal of life. So we see it's not that worship of the Supreme Lord, by that one can live with prosperity in this life and also one can attain liberation in the next life. Such a wholesome program, that is the definition of success given. So there is a Swayambhu Manu. The example of Swayambhu Manu is wonderful. Recently, I was reading a Bhagavad Gita shloka. In that, Ramanuja quotes a verse from the Rig Veda. And he say in the Rig Veda, a verse is quoted. And then he says that that verse says, whatever is spoken by Manu is a medicine for the people. Whatever is spoken by Manu is medicine for people. Yadvai kincha manur avadat tad beshajam. This is mentioned in the Yajurveda. Yajurveda 2.2.10.54. Whatever is spoken by Manu is a medicine for the people. So nowadays, there are many different groups of people. they observe a day of burning Manusmriti. They observe a day of burning Manusmriti. They say, oh, Manusmriti, there is so much of it talks about the caste system. It speaks in a derogatory way about the Shudras, women, like that. People come up with all these narratives. But actually, according to the Shastra, whatever as Manu has spoken, it is a medicine for the people. Manu is the Hita Chintaka. He is a real well-wisher of the humankind. Yeah, certain things we may not be able to apply in the exact way in the current time. But Manu also understands that. Therefore, at the end of the Manusmriti, Manu says that qualified Brahmanas should come together and then they should discuss among themselves as to how to apply the teachings of Manusmriti in the particular time and place. So just like the children, they don't like medicine because the medicine is bitter in nature. Similarly, people who are childish in nature, although they may be grown up, but a childish people consider the Manusmriti to be unpalatable. Such people, they observe the day of burning the Manusmriti. But those who are mature people, they will take the medicine even though the medicine is bitter in nature. So mature people will accept Manusmriti, even though it may appear that it is speaking some strong words. Next shloka. Tamev vatsashayabhritya vatsalam.
तमेव वत्स्या श्रयभृत्य वत्सलम्
Mumukshubir mrigyapadabja paddatim.
मुमुक्षुभिर्मृग्यपदाब्ज पद्बतिम्
Ananya bhave nija dharma bhavite.
अनन्य भावे निज धर्म भाविते
Manasyavasthapya bhajasva purusham.
मनस्यवस्थाप्य भजस्व पुरुषम्. Translation. My dear boy, you also should take shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is very kind of his devotees. Persons seeking liberation from the cycle of birth and death always take shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord in devotional service, becoming purified by executing your allotted occupation. Just situate the Supreme Personality of Godhead in your heart, and without deviating for a moment, engage always in his service.
So Sunithi is giving such beautiful instructions, acting as the real mother. Yeah. Anybody who is in the position of a father or a mother or a teacher or a king, they should guide the dependents towards the worship of the Supreme Personality of God. So Sunithi is saying, hey Vatsa, O child, Bhritya Vatsalam. The Supreme Lord is very affectionate towards his servants. Bhritya Vatsalam. Mumukshubirapi. Mumukshubir, that means those who are desiring moksha. Mumukshubirapi moksha praptyartam mrigya. Even those who are desiring liberation, they worship the Supreme Personality of God at Vishnu for attaining moksha. Moksha praptyartam mrigya anveshaniya padabjayoho. They search the lotus feet of the Lord Vishnu for attaining moksha, those who are desiring moksha. Padabjayoho paddatir margo yasya tam purusham bhagavantameva ashrayam sharanam gacha. Those who desire for moksha, they worship the lotus feet of Lord Vishnu. You also worship the lotus feet of Lord Vishnu only. Bhagavantam eva ashrayam sharanam gacha. You also surrender to that lotus feet of Lord Vishnu only. Tata ananya bhave. Ananya bhave means nasti anyasmin vastu matre bhavaschintanam, without diverting your attention to any other vastus, without diverting your attention to the worship of any other devatas. Yasya tasmin nija dharmaihi panchavarshikasya panchavarshikasya anupanitasya te karma anadhikarat bhakti dharmair bhavite shodite manasi tameva purusham avastapya bhajasva. Since you are 5 years old, you are not qualified for practicing karma yoga. Therefore, you practice bhakti yoga. Bhakti yoga is completely independent. Bhakti yoga can be practiced at any stage of life. You are not qualified for karma yoga because you are situated and you are there in 5 years. And you are also not qualified for jnana yoga, because jnana yoga is dependent on the purity of the mind, which arises from the practice of karma yoga. So you practice bhakti yoga with a one-pointed attention, without diverting your attention to anything else. Purusham avastapya manasi tameva purusham avastapya bhajasva. Fixing the Supreme Lord in your mind, you worship the Supreme Lord. So Vishwanath Chakravartipad writes that so take shelter of the Supreme Lord who is affectionate to your servant, Bhritya Vatsalam, and whose footsteps are sought by the aspirants for liberation. Mumukshubir Mrugya Padabja Paddatim. So the Lord is affectionate to the servant, and that Supreme Lord will have more affection for you than the affection of millions of mothers like me. I have affection towards you, but the affection of the Supreme Lord towards you is higher, greater than the millions of mothers. And if you worship the Supreme Lord, you will not encounter even a trace of suffering. You will take shelter of the Supreme Lord. Mrugya Padabja Paddatim, the path of whose lotus feet are sought by the aspirants for liberation, but which is not easily attained by them. Having taken shelter, you should place them in your mind, manas avastapya, ananya bhave, which has with attachment for nothing else. Nija dharma bhavite, worship the Supreme Lord, fixing him in the mind purified by bhakti dharma. Nija dharma here refers to what? Nija dharma refers to bhakti dharma. Nija dharma bhavite means with a mind purified by bhakti yoga. Since a 5-year-old boy is not qualified for karma yoga, with a mind purified by bhakti yoga, you worship the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. So Prabhupada writes a brilliant purport. The system of bhakti yoga described by Sunithi is the standard way of God realization. Everybody can continue in his constitutional occupational duties and at the same time keep the Supreme Lord within his heart. So Krishna also told Arjuna, Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu mam anusmara yudhyacha. That should be the motto of every honest person seeking perfection in Krishna consciousness. So Sunithi is telling the Lord is Bhritya Vatsala. He is kind to his devotees. You came to me crying, being insulted by your stepmother, but I am unable to do any good for you. But Krishna is so kind to your devotees, his devotees. If you go to him, the combined kindness of millions of mothers like me will be surpassed by his affectionate and tender dealings. When everyone else fails to mitigate one's misery, Krishna is able to help the devotee. Sunithi also stressed that the process of approaching the Supreme Lord is not easy. It is sought after by the great sages who are very advanced in spiritual realization. So, yeah, I already told that. I said that you are not qualified for practicing karma kanda or karma yoga, but you are qualified for bhakti yoga. In the Bhagavatam, the Chatushloki Bhagavatam, second canto, 9th chapter, 36th shloka. Etavadeva jignasyam, etavadeva jignasyam, tatvajignya sunatmunah अन्वय व्यतिरेकाभ्याम यत्स्यात् सर्वत्र सर्वदा. So in the Chatushloki Bhagavatam, it is mentioned that a person who is searching after the supreme absolute truth must certainly search for it up to this. Up to this means up to attaining the goal of Krishna Prema. In all circumstances, in all the space and time, and both directly and indirectly. Anvaya Vyatirekabyam Yatsyat Sarvatra Sarvada. So in that purport, it is explained that how Bhakti Yoga can be practiced in all time, place and circumstances. And then a Bhakti Yoga can be practiced in all the stages of life. As an example, how it's explained that Dhruva Maharaj practiced Bhakti Yoga even as a child. Next shloka, with this will end. Nanyam tata padma palasha lochanad.
Nanyan tatha padma palashalochanad.
Dukkachidam te mrugayami kanchana.
Dukkachidam te mrugayami kanchana.
Yo mrugyate hasta grihita padmaya.
Yo mrugyate hasta gruhita padmaya.
Shriyetarairanga vimrugya manaya.
Priyetarairanga vimrugya manaya. Translation. My dear Dhruva, as far as I am concerned, I do not find anyone who can mitigate your distress, but the Supreme Personality of Godhead, whose eyes are like lotus petals. Many demigods, such as Lord Brahma, seek the pleasure of the goddess of fortune, but the goddess of fortune herself, with a lotus flower in her hand, is always ready to render service to the Supreme Lord.
So here, Sunithi, the last instruction, she says that Nanyam tata padma palasha lochana. She is telling very clearly that I don't find any other person. She says that Padma Palashavad Bhakta Janata Apaharake Shobhamane Lochane. The Padma Palashavad, the Krishna has the eyes like a lotus petal. Padma Palashavad Lochana. And simply by his glance, because he has eyes like a lotus petal, simply by his glance, he removes the distress of his devotee. Bhakta Janata Apaharake. Bhakta Janata Apaharake Shobhamane Lochane. Yasya Tasmat Anyam. Apart from that Krishna, apart from that Vishnu, Anyam Kanchana Api. Te Tava Dukkachidam. Dukkha Nivartakam Na Mrigayami. Apart from that Krishna, I don't see any other person. I don't see any Devata who can completely uproot the miseries. Dukkha Chidam Te Mrigayami Kinchana. Dukkha Chidam means any other Devata, no other Devata can completely uproot the miseries. Na Mrigayami, Vicharena na Pashyami. When I think about that, I don't see any other Devata who can completely uproot the miseries apart from Krishna. Yaha itaraihi brahmadibihi prasadartam vimrugya manaya anvishya manaya api leelaya haste grihitam deepavat padmam yaya taya shriya um, um, Swamis tat prasadartam yo mrigyate apekshate. In fact, other devatas like Brahma, they seek the favor of Lakshmi Devi. Many devatas like Brahma, prasadartam vimrugyamanaya. They are always looking, they are always searching, they are always endeavoring to get the favor or the mercy of Lakshmi Devi. But they are always looking the favor of Lakshmi Devi, who is having a lotus flower in her hand. In Lakshmi Devi's hand, there is a lotus flower. Yo mrigyate hasta grihita padmaya. But this Lakshmi Devi is actually seeking the favor of Krishna. She is seeking the favor of Narayana or Vishnu. So therefore, in that way, she is actually highlighting the position of Vishnu. So she says that I don't find anyone who can extinguish your suffering except the lotus-eyed Lord, who is sought by Lakshmi, who holds a lotus in her hand and who is sought by Brahma and others. So seeing their temporary nature, Sunithi is not, Sunithi says that I don't advise you to worship the Devatas. Although the Devatas may be easy to worship, but they cannot completely uproot your suffering. And whatever benedictions they give, they are all temporary in nature. Antavattu phalam tesham tadbhavat yalpamedasam. Devan deva yajoyanti antavattu phalam tesham. Krishna also says that the fruits given by the devatas, they are actually, they have an end. They are temporary in nature. And the Lord Vishnu has lotus eyes, Padma Palasha. Just by his glance, your miseries will be mitigated. You will become cool. And Lakshmi holds a lotus in her hand like a lamp, and she is sought by Brahma and others. In this way, Sunithi is emphatically saying, so let us see Prabhupada's purport. Sunithi pointed out herewith that the benediction received from the personality of Godhead and that from the Devatas are not on an equal level. Foolish persons say that no matter whom one worships, one will get the same result. Yato mat tato pat, like that, there's a famous philosophy. Whomever you worship, ultimately the result will be same. But actually, that is not a fact. Bhagavad Gita, it is also said that benedictions received from the demigods are all temporary and are meant for the less intelligent. In other words, because the demigods are all materialistically conditioned souls, although they are situated in very exalted positions, their benedictions cannot be permanent. So the permanent benediction is a spiritual benediction. It is also said in the Gita that only persons who have lost their intelligence go to worship the Devatas. Kamais taisair hritajnana prapadyante anya devata. Tam tam niyamamastaya prakritya niyatasvaya. So less intelligent people worship the Devatas for material benefits. Therefore, Sunithi told her son that he should not seek the mercy of the Devatas, but should directly approach the Supreme Personality of God. So material opulences are controlled by the Supreme Lord through his different potencies, and specifically the goddess of fortune. So generally, most people worship the Lakshmi Devi to become wealthy. Even great devatas, they also seek the mercy of Lakshmi Devi. But that Lakshmi Devi herself is seeking the pleasure of the Supreme Lord. So therefore, anyone who wishes to worship the Supreme Lord automatically receives the blessings of the goddess of fortune. So within the worship of the Supreme Lord, the blessings of Lakshmi Devi is included. But when you worship the Lakshmi Devi, independent of Narayana, whatever benedictions one may get, it will be temporary in nature, because Lakshmi's name is Chanchala. she does not stay at a particular place permanently. She keeps moving. So at this stage of life, Dhruva Maharaj, he is really ambitious to get material benefits, material opulences. He wants to achieve a kingdom greater than that of his father, greater than that of his grandfather, greater than that of his great grandfather, that is Brahma. So therefore, Sunithi is telling Dhruva Maharaj to worship the Supreme Lord. Because even Lakshmi Devi is seeking the favor of Vishnu. So although a pure devotee does not seek benediction from the Supreme Lord, but a mixed devotee may worship Krishna for even material benedictions. But such a person, a mixed devotee, is worshipping the Supreme Lord for material benediction, is gradually purified. Satyam dishat artitam artito nrinam naivartado yat punarartita yatah swayam vidatte bhajatam anicchatam ichchapidanam nijapada pallavam. So, when a person worships the Supreme Lord with a material desire, the Lord fulfills the desires of such a devotee in such a way that the devotee will not again ask for those material desires. In such a way that his material desires will be purified. So, Sunithi, as a far-seeing woman, Sunithi has a far-sightedness. Therefore, she is advising Dhruva to worship the Supreme Lord and nobody else. She is not giving us some shortcut to worship some Devata. So, and then Prabhupada says that when a person is fatigued, and when a fatigued person sees a lotus flower, his fatigue can be immediately reduced to nil. Similarly, when an aggrieved person sees the lotus face of the Supreme Lord, immediately all his grief is reduced. And we will see that when Dhruva Maharaj offers his prayer, how his grief is completely reduced. So your lotus flower is also an insignia in the hand of Lord Vishnu as well as in the hand of Goddess of Fortune. The worshippers of the Goddess of Fortune and Lord Vishnu together, those who worship Lakshmi Narayana together, are certainly very opulent in all respects, even in material life. So that is why Vishnu is called as Shiva Virinchi Nutam. That means even Shiva and Brahma offer respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. So in this way, these 5 shlokas, very profound shloka in which Sunithi is giving her instructions to Dhruva to worship the Supreme Lord. And then after hearing this instruction, what does Dhruva Maharaj do? We will see in the next class. Hare Krishna. Anybody has any questions or comments?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. So,
Hare Krishna.
when yourself defined a success,
Hmm.
so when we say that this place is Dukhalayam, so only when you perform Bhagavad Dharma and your Varnashram duties properly, this you don't feel it's like Dukhalayam. Is it like that? I mean, the definition for people who are performing, this definition is not relevant. Is it like that? What?
Yeah, in the sense, Krishna says it is a Dukkalayam, that there are certain inherent miseries, birth, old age, disease, and death are there. But still, when a person follows the system of Dharma given by Krishna while living in this world, and also practices the Bhagavata Dharma, direct devotional service to Krishna, then even while living in this world, one can live with prosperity and also attain liberation in the next life. Swayambhu Manu's life is a testimony for this fact. And Krishna also mentions in the Gita.
And also, when you yourself mentioned about Dhruva Maharaj's age is not fit for Karma Yoga and for a yogi because he's not purified of material desires, only Bhakti Yoga. So, this Prabhupada, I don't know, I suddenly felt that he's introducing homeschooling, or he's introducing this Gurukul thing, that one must not put these children in slaughterhouses where, like, I was feeling that sort of interpretation.
Yeah, no, there the Sunithi is basically telling that, homeschooling, that's a different this one. Education for the children. Ideally, there is a Gurukul education, it used to be there. Homeschooling is also not easy thing. Some people try to do as an alternative to modern education. It has its own challenges. But essentially, the point in that shloka is that the karma yoga, Dhruva Maharaj is not qualified for jnana yoga, because jnana yoga depends on the purity of mind arising from the practice of karma yoga. And karma yoga, Dhruva Maharaj is not qualified for karma yoga also, because karma yoga, for practicing karma yoga, one should, in karma yoga also there are certain elements. Falatyaga, kartrutva, buddhityaga, and mamathatyaga. One should give up the conception that I am the doer. Mamata tyaga. One should give up the conception of mamata, me and mine. And phalat tyaga. One should give up the attachment toward the fruits. With that idea, one should practice karma yoga. But Dhruva Maharaj, at this point in his mind, he is really ambitious to get a very high position, to get a high kingdom. And he is very, the revenge towards Suruchi is burning in his heart. And he is very ambitious to get a high position. So therefore, he's not, but for Karma Yoga, also you need to have this disposition, Falatyaga, Mamata Tyaga, and Kartrutva Buddhi Tyaga. So therefore, Dhruva Maharaj, Sunithi felt the only way out is that Bhakti Yoga. Bhakti Yoga is the best path. So therefore, she is instructing Dhruva to engage in Bhakti Yoga.
So it is similar to that. I think Aditi was told to perform that Payovrat or something, like because her Indra.
Yeah, Kashyapa Muni, Aditi, when her sons had lost her kingdom, Aditi also comes to Kashyapa. Kashyapa engages Aditi in the performance of Payovrata. Payovrata. It is a vrata of worshipping the Supreme Lord. Kashyapa also engaged Diti to perform the Pumsavana Vrata. Again, it is a vrata to worship the Supreme Lord. So Diti also wanted to take revenge against Indra. She wanted to get a son who can kill Indra. Aditi wanted her sons to regain their kingdom. So Kashyapa expertly engaged Diti and Aditi in worshipping the Supreme Lord. Similarly here, Sunithi is expertly engaging Dhruva in worshipping the Supreme Lord. So Prabhupada said in one place, he gave a definition of a management. Management means to create interest in Krishna where there is no interest. To create interest in worshipping Krishna even though that person may not have interest. That is the expertise of management. Here Kashyapa or here Sunithi, they are expertly engaging Dhruva, Aditi, Diti in the worship of the Supreme Lord. Okay. So we'll stop here. Thank you very much for your patient attention. We'll continue next week.
Haribol. Thank you very much, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, next time also 5 to 6.
Next week, because I have some course 7 to 9.
Okay.
So next week also we'll have 5 to 6.
Okay, Haribol.
So thank you very much, sir.
Thank you,
Hare
Prabhuji, so much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Hare Krishna.
And lovely question asked by Deepti Mataji. Deepika Mataji.